Hey guys, how are we doing? Crypto Insight UK here, bringing you back another video. So first off, Bitcoin at all-time high, and I'll give myself one of these. Well done, Will. We've been talking about this for weeks in the newsletter. Bitcoin at 110k. We need to lock in now though, because of where things could get really exciting. I'm going to just break down to you what I see is happening, what I think is going to happen next, and I will go more in depth in my weekly newsletter. But let's just discuss everything that's going on right now because, excuse me, that was actually my chair. Honestly, I did a burp and then my chair like squeaked at the same time. So promise, I would admit it. Honest. Anyway, looking at Bitcoin, what we can see, you see these lines on the screen here. This is literally from the newsletter. This is taken straight from there. This is the DXY inversely correlated to Bitcoin on an 11-week lag. So these candles here, these grey candles, are actually those of the DXY that I flipped and overlaid onto the Bitcoin chart with an 11-week lag. We've been discussing this. I said literally in the newsletter last week, I thought we're in this period, and then I thought this was the next step. We've nailed this, the DXY call. We nailed the top when I was in Bali. I said the DXY was going to come down in range. We've nailed now the rotation from DXY into Bitcoin, or at least not like the rotation of DXY into Bitcoin, but the rotation of price action inversely correlated into Bitcoin. And when we thought this correlation would start, we said we said the bottom was going to be on April the 7th, and I think it came on the 9th, but double bottomed on the 9th as far as I can remember. We've absolutely ripped that. Like, that's the 7th, so that's the weekly candle. As we show you on the weekly, to show you how accurately we did nail that DXY call. But not a time for standing around tapping ourselves on the back too much, although we also did nail the short-term Bitcoin PA as well. Just to quickly show you this as well. We talked about this red line here in the newsletter. I said, look, I think we're going to sweep highs, then sweep lows and continue higher. And then this week, in this sort of period here, I think we're around this area. I said, what I think is going to happen actually is people now think it's consensus that we come lower, and I do feel like we actually do continue to the upside, and that's what we've done. So what comes next? Let's look at Bitcoin, altcoins, XRP, ETH, these sorts of things, and see if we can work out what comes next. But anyway, just quickly, I'll touch on that in a second. So we're looking at liquidity right now. What we've seen is basically that I think people like pain. We've been squeezing up through this liquidity, and as we started to squeeze up, more liquidity is getting added above us as more people try and short the local top, and this, in my opinion, takes us higher. Yes, we still have the liquidity below us at 100k. We've talked about that, but realistically, guys, there's more and more people coming into short positions, and I would not be surprised to see this move now continue to the upside because of this. This wasn't really here yesterday. Like, if we come to this area here, what you can see is the liquidity we have was just like a little bit in this sort of area. So like, remove this right hand side of the screen. Let me see if I can, it might, it's not going to show you very easily, but like, look to the left hand side of this like white dotted line right now. What you can see is as we moved up for the last like few days now, and I'm going to look to the right of it, we've just added extra short positions in here. And what we're going to see now is on the daily, the liquidity is just like huge above us, and we're just touching into some of this dense liquidity. We're just touching into it now, which is exciting if you're a crypto holder. This is the area that I said is probably alt season. And the thing I want to touch on here is just, I will touch on two things. One is what I wrote about this week, and what I said is I think we're in this area here, and I'll show you where. I said I thought we're in this area here, squeezing into this liquidity. We could be here, and we could have a pullback before we actually go on and send it. The reason I highlighted that is just because I felt like the range was being formed, and we were looking for a range break. And as we got closer to the range break, liquidity was getting more dense above us. And then the other thing that I wanted to point out, so not only do I think we're there, but the other thing I wanted to point out was this on the XRP, in regards to XRP, is when we broke this range, a substantial break of the range, we started to head into this liquidity area. This area here is when XRP outperformed the market. And what I said was there's a 470% outperformance in the period where Bitcoin really broke the range. So Bitcoin breaks the range here, and XRP, that you can see, it waits pretty much until Bitcoin's made that clean range break. So if we're in this, let me Let me see if I can make this a bit more clear. Just want to make it super clear for you. That's on the daily. I'll get it on the daily then and we'll have a look. So what I was basically saying is, this here is exactly what I'm talking about. Look on the newsletter here. So here, we're there and we're there. Like, hopefully that makes it looks a bit easier when it's zoomed out like this. But what I'm saying is, we could be here or we could be here. I don't know in regards to where we are in price action. But this here is where XRP moved massively against the rest of the market. In the 28-day period starting on November the 5th, XRP gained 470%. So this is the thing, or 27th day. This is the thing that I'm looking for here, guys. That's what I'm saying, and that's what I'm looking for. And at the same time, this is when Bitcoin dominance just drops. Like, this little drop in Bitcoin dominance here was the time that XRP did that move. So what is going on and what are we looking for next? Essentially, what we're looking for is for Bitcoin to potentially continue into this area of liquidity to show whether we are in this area here or whether we are in fact in this area here, and what may come next. And when we get that confirmation, to then see things like, well, ETH performing well is a good sign, because what we want to see is Bitcoin dominance starting to lose strength and potentially putting a lower high in for Bitcoin dominance. Now, nothing is confirmed yet. We've just hit Bitcoin all-time highs yesterday. The ideal scenario is for Bitcoin dominance to kind of hold strong within this channel whilst Bitcoin moves up in price and everything else basically goes up with it. That means liquidity is coming into the market as a whole. When Bitcoin dominance falls, it means that more liquidity is cycling away from Bitcoin into altcoins, and that means alts will have explosive moves. And I definitely am not against that. It's what I want. But in a perfect world, what you want is Bitcoin and the whole market to surge for a while, and then all that extra liquidity that's coming to Bitcoin then rotates into altcoins, okay? That's what I would be looking for in a perfect world. But I'm definitely not unhappy with Bitcoin dominance dropping. This was the drop here that saw XRP move up from 50 cent to 270, and then it continued to 330. So we're obviously higher now in terms of Bitcoin dominance. XRP is still at 243, and we've got things like ETH starting to move. And why is that interesting? Because that is the largest altcoin, and that would take away from Bitcoin dominance. And what we're seeing today is Bitcoin dominance dropping and a large volume coming in. And obviously we've still got 15 hours left of this candle, so there's nothing really to shout about yet, but this is what we are monitoring. This is where we start to see this rotation potentially away from Bitcoin into altcoins. But yeah, that's my thought process on Bitcoin and Bitcoin dominance. Next, I know we're massively into XRP on this channel, so let's talk about XRP a little bit. XRP ETH, let's look at the daily time frame. What have I been looking for? I don't know why it's taken my drawing off. But what we've been saying is, look, we want a bullish divergence to form here, where we have a higher low on the oscillator and a lower low in price action. Now, today again, we're touching a lower low in price. Like, this lower low could come all the way down here like this. But what we're essentially looking for is just for this oscillator to bounce in a higher position than when it did back here, which was 19, and for price to bounce in a lower position. That's a bullish divergence. It essentially is showing that the RSI shows momentum, and this is essentially showing that even though price is going lower, it shows that momentum is not there to the downside, as you got a higher low, so that the momentum is showing a higher position, but the price is showing a lower, and that's why it's called divergence, meaning that one thing is not marrying up with the other thing, and that's how you can start to think that, okay, the momentum to the downside move is waning, so more than likely the next move is going to be to the upside. And it's even more accurate when it's in the oversold area if it's to the downside, and in the overbought area to the upside, okay? So that's something to keep your mind on. The other thing we were looking for is for Bitcoin dominance to do something similar. We were looking for a higher low in terms of the oscillator, and the low was here. And then we were looking for a lower low in price, and I said to sweep this key area and the previous lows. And we kind of have done that. I don't know if this is definitely enough. But as you can see, every single time we've come down to this line, we haven't had any closes below it yet, and basically I've seen quite a strong reaction. So let's see if we get that. That's the other thing I'm looking for. And a similar story with XRP dominance, clearly. And this is kind of like a resistance level here. We've been respecting this like downtrend. We're looking for the same sort of thing here. You're going to see the same repeating sort of pattern across, obviously, XRP ETH, XRP Bitcoin, because they're the two biggest market caps in crypto, so XRP dominance is probably going to be showing something similar, and potentially it is here, making a lower low just outside of the previous range lows and potentially a higher low on the RSI. We're not quite there in terms of like price action yet, but we are very, very close. And let's just have a look in terms of dollar action. And I hope you understand what I'm saying. It's like TA is not like this miracle thing where it tells you exactly what's going to happen, exactly when it's going to happen, but it gives you an indication of what the trend is doing, and also give you an indication based on like history of what should come next. Okay, that's essentially what TA is. I'm going to get rid of some of these drawings here. Let's go show you what I think we need. XRP to close, daily price to close above this area here, which is like 243. That would be nice. That'd be a nice daily close for us and start to hopefully see some volume come back in. Let's see if there's any more clear on these charts here. And then what we also would like to see, I'm going to take us to the 4 hour now, which is starting to do now, is to start to break and close above, again, 243, these local swing highs. And then we're targeting this area here at 260. And if we get the break above 260, we're then confirming basically an upward trend has definitely started again with a higher high, a higher low, higher high. This would be a higher low, and then you would get a next higher high. And that's when you can start to get excited, especially when you see the breakdown in Bitcoin dominance and Bitcoin breaking all-time highs. It's hold on to your hat season again, guys, to be absolutely honest with you. We're looking for our first target at 289 to 290. Then the next real resistance is this whole cluster here of candles between like 340 and like $3 really. And then it's sit back and watch price discovery, probably for most alts. I do think XRP will outperform again for a few reasons that we've discussed for many times on this channel. I'm not going to waste our time just going over them all again, because if you've been watching me, you will know the same thing. But that's where I am. That's where I'm positioned. Congratulations to everyone who's been buying the dip. Like throughout the whole of like the start of this year, I've literally just been screaming at people to buy the dip and almost to buy it in whatever the fuck you want to buy it in. We've been buying some ENA. We bought some REC token recently. I put that on Twitter. We bought some Flare. We bought some CRV. That's about all that I've been personally buying. Because I wanted some exposure to ETH betas. I really nearly bought another Bored Ape, but I just hadn't quite got enough liquidity to do it. They were about 21k, and I didn't have, like, I've made some good stables in my XRP trade, but I didn't have the extra liquidity that I was willing to sacrifice in case I was wrong. And that's the other thing, is like, you have to have some money on the side in case you're wrong, because you got to live if you're full-time crypto. For me, I am. I don't have a salary. I make my money from trading, so I had to. I entered a lot more than I potentially wanted to, but it's looking pretty good right now. Our average buy for ENA is 30 cent. REC's up 40% at the minute. Flare's about break even, I think, on my entries. CRV's up like double. I think we've started buying CRV at like 43 cent. I covered it so much for you guys. Just stop covering it. There's no need. Also, some of my family bought CRV, which is good, or looking good right now, and presumably continue to look good if stablecoin bills get passed. But yeah, today we're watching XRP because I really think that we are super close. And whether that could be today, it could be tomorrow, it could be a week, could be 2 weeks, could be 3, depending on what Bitcoin does and where we are in terms of what I showed you in the liquidity at the start. But that is what I'm looking for, and that is why I'm looking for it. And I hope everything makes sense here. But it's a day to celebrate. It's a day to be excited. But it's not really a day to like rush into trades. It's just a day to sit there in your spot positions, or if you're already in leverage position, like I am, actually on XRP. And if you would like to trade leverage, or if you just like to sign up to a new exchange, I do have a partnership with WeX I've just started. I'd really appreciate it if you'd sign up to that. It's worth having another non-KYC exchange on your portfolio. I'm not like through all the exchanges. I'm not saying they're going to be the best or the worst exchange in the world. I really don't know. I just know the team. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, please do subscribe, like, and share it with a friend. If you've got any questions, please let me know in the comment section. But yeah, also, I'm nearly at 9,000 subscribers. I literally need like 20 some more subscribers. So if you would subscribe, that'd be great. Peace up, A-Town Dance, Crypto Insight UK would say.